who, he's kind of that one they don't talk about, okay? But then he's brought up in the ways of Egypt. He's brought up in the ways of Egypt. We know that he actually went and did a little battling even on the Egyptian side. We know that there's multiple things to point out to that he was not only, I mean, y'all have all seen the movie, The Prince of Egypt. But I'm just making the point that he was actually someone that, yeah, he was that stepchild, but he was still someone that was looked at as a powerful person in Egypt.
Yeah, because he had the best education, lived in the best house, went to the best schools, you know.
Sure.
Had the best jobs.
And his mom happened to be a princess. That helps.
The regular Egyptian probably didn't know anything about his heritage.
Yeah,
So
like
what you're saying is
Joseph,
Pharaoh assumed that he could educate and train this boy past his lineage,
Absolutely he did.
which you can. Because I didn't know my dad, but my mom told me, she goes, "You're just like your dad."
Sure.
And I see that in my own son.
Oh, no, you're absolutely right.
You
And
can't take the father out of the son.
okay, but let's actually go back to the story, okay? He's raised in the palace. At what age?
3 months.
3 years probably, whenever he's weaned.
That's not what mine says. It says when he grew up, she brought him back. His actual mother had enough influence over him to make sure he understood he was a Hebrew.
Right.
Because could they have raised him as an Egyptian without him ever knowing he was a Hebrew?
Sure.
Yes.
Sure they did.
Well,
Yes.
Then he would have been.
well, but how sharp would he have had to have been to figure out? I mean, you know, they might have had football showers, and he might have noticed there was a little something different.
Show other men and see.
You know what, Burley? I didn't see that coming. I really didn't. Wow.
Are you still trying to get past that, Burley?
Yeah.
You know, like some people have nannies with their kids,
Uh-huh.
and they raise them the way the people want them raised, they know.
Sure.
But the nanny has a lot of input, and they have a heart more than the parents maybe. That's not right, because she still loves them and shows them love, a different type of love.
Uh-huh.
And your parents want you to do this.
Right.
She does say, this is what you do, this is the way your parents want you to do that.
I'm going to make a point to
The mom
that.
taught him everything, but also had to get him ready for when he went to the big house.
Sure. Okay. All right, Lois, go ahead, and then I'm going to make a point
I
about what
have
you
just
said.
a little footnote, and it's NIV, so take it for what it's worth. In Exodus 2:11, when it says Moses had grown up, it says he was now 40 years old. See Acts 7:23.
Okay.
The thing that amazed me though is because Pharaoh told them to kill all of them, and then yet mother still got their babies, so that was a God thing.
No, absolutely it was. I'm going to make a point to what you said about the difference between a nanny and a mother. Because there's a huge difference. My wife used to actually babysit a lot for Bryce and Lisa Olsen. Great couple, great kids. And she loved them like her own, but there was still that, I get to go home at the end of the night. You know? The difference here is that, how does Moses know who his brother is? Doesn't he know that his brother's Aaron? Doesn't he know that his sister's Miriam before he leaves? How does he know that?
Secrets.
Can I read Acts?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, this is Acts 7. I'm going to start in 20. It was at this time that Moses was born, and he was lovely in the sight of God, and he was nurtured 3 months in his father's home. And after he had been set outside, Pharaoh's daughter took him away and nurtured him as her own son. Moses was educated in all the learning of the Egyptians, and he was a man of power in words and deeds. But when he was approaching the age of 40, it entered his mind to visit his brethren, the sons of Israel.
Okay. Here's the thing. That's still a little vague.
Well, I mean, and it says, and when he saw one of them being treated unjustly, so it ties right into, so it's saying at least that occurrence happened when he was about 40.
I'm making
That
a
he
point.
killed
though.
the,
Who in here knows their great 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 grandmother?
Ancestry.com.
Did you meet her?
I'm sure she told him and explained to him what was going on, and God was with him, and he was saved, and Pharaoh's daughter found him, and zip it, secret, but you're going that way.
Do you know that a 7-year-old can be manipulated to the point where they don't remember anything before the age of 7?
yep.
I was just gonna say, I can't tell my kids what they eat. Surprise, somebody.
I'm making a point
I
here, guys.
experienced it.
There was.
I have to disagree with that.
It's actually not.
I
That's
don't know where
that's a
you-
proven fact.
Well, I mean, I can
Because
attest
the
to
opposite
it.
is true, where, you know, the Catholics used to say, give me a child until they're 7, until they're 7. So there was good possibility he was a young child when she brought him back.
Sure.
You know, he was 5 or 6, probably, about like Isaac when he was weaned.
And then once he's brought back, how much exposure is he going to have to his nanny that nursed him? None.
So,
So he's still going to know that his brother was Aaron, and then his sister was Miriam, and then his people were oppressed because they were the Hebrews that were not like the Egyptians who he was going to live with. I'm making the point. I don't have an answer. Look at the point, though. It says that when he grew up, she brought him back. So, hold on. The point to be made here is there was enough of a time period that that his mother had with him, that she had influence over the fact that you are a child of mine, you are a child of God, this is your brother, these are your people. Don't forget it. Because did he have ample opportunity to forget that?
Yeah.
He fought with the Egyptians. He was dressed in the robes of the Egyptian household. He was adopted in as a son of Pharaoh. His brother was Pharaoh's son. I'm making the point. There was enough time, enough influence placed over him through his mother, because that would have been the only contact he would have had with the Egyptian people before he decided to go out and check on them. Think about it.
Unless he interacted with the Hebrews throughout his lifetime.
At this point, there would have been no interaction. And the reason I say that with severity and seriousness is because they did not, at this point, this is right after the fact that Pharaoh's saying, kill all the babies, these numerous people. We're going to put them in subjection. We're going to make them they're going to wish they weren't here. He's putting them in that subjection period. And what would a prince have been doing with the children of Israel?
But look at Nicodemus. He went to Yeshua at night
But
to
that's
be
later.
taught.
Yes, sir.
Another thought would be, genetically, at least from around the Hebrews, we do not know genetically who the Egyptians were. He doesn't physically, he doesn't look Egyptian. He looks at his skin color. He might not be of the same tint as the Egyptians. So he's going to know, any smart guy would look down and go, I look like them.
Okay. Then what about Joseph?
Yeah, Joseph, they brought it
Because
together.
Joseph couldn't be recognized, and he was also placed
So I don't
someplace
know
in power.
how genetically they
He was
You're right.
dressed in-
It's a question. Because do we have the absolute answer on this? No. I'm just making a point that it's something we ought to look at, considering what kind of influence does a mother have over a child?
oh, it works
It's
out.
the influence.
Especially in the younger years.
When you see kids,
There was 2 different languages here that were present that would have a pretty big factor upon this.
okay,
The Hebrew language, which most likely that he was taught by his mother on that, and then the Egyptian language. We know that there was two because Joseph had an interpreter
Sure.
on that, so there was something. He had to learn them both, so during the time that he was growing up, before, you know, and even if you look at like my granddaughter, at 6, she can speak some, not fluently by any means, Hebrew.
Yeah.
On that. And she'll probably remember it. She may not, depending upon how much she uses it throughout her life. If she didn't do it anymore until she was older, because I can do a little bit of the same with Spanish. I learned it somewhat good when I was in Pecos. When I came up here, it wasn't as needed. So there's gonna be some of that would just be inherent in this situation.
Okay, I think he knew he was raised by them, and maybe his family had favor in Pharaoh's daughter's side, so maybe they weren't mistreated, and it didn't bother him so much, but then when he started growing and seeing that it really hit him, you know, it hit home.
That's a good point. We don't have any proof of that. We don't have any proof that it was the other way either. I don't have any proof that he was 12 when he went back, or 10 when he went back, or 3 when he went back. There's no proof of that. It's not stated. So I'm just making the point, though, that there was enough influence placed over him by his mother. Because we got to look at the facts. The facts are his influence would have come from the source. Okay? Now, be it hereditary. Okay? I like that line of thinking. I just question it based on Joseph. Because Joseph was changed. He was changed into an Egyptian. He was renamed.
But he was 17 when he went into slavery too. So he had plenty of time to be taught by his father.
Sure.
I just can't help but think like, I don't know, just as a woman, have sisters that nurse their kids till they're like 2 years old and stuff. And I mean, I don't know, we don't really know how long he was nursed by her, where the 2 years. I mean, I'm just thinking of Matthew and Mackie, when they were 2 years old, they were talking.
Yeah.
To me, they knew they were, they knew who their cousins were, and when Matthew was 2, he knew she was his sister, and he was around her, he saw her, he understood, and I think that even that young, just those memories, he remembers stuff like that. We don't know, but.
Well, that's kind of the point I'm making. I don't have an answer. Just want you to think about it, because it's important to look at. Last thing I'm going to say, because we got to go to break, because I'm getting watched over here. Because I totally don't look at a watch or wear a watch. Moses seeks refuge in Midian. Where's Midian? A lot's happened. Okay, we're
Far
speaking.
away.
Where is it?
Desert.
It's to the east. Where?
Saudi, isn't it?
Saudi.
Saudi Arabia.
Okay. Why is it happens to be right next to Sinai? I just thought that was an interesting fact. Very interesting fact that it was right next to Sinai. He ends up running for refuge, which, by the way, is actually a picture of the city of refuge, because the people that are looking for him are family members or whatever, you know what I mean, or the authorities. And it's one of those things where, do you think he accidentally killed him, or did he mean to?
He meant to. He looked both ways. That was premeditated. He looked to see if anybody was looking.
Yeah, that's true.
Premeditated enough that he didn't know what to do with his body, and he hid it in the sand.
Which he's basically living up to his familial link. His anger. Cursed be your anger.
His leader, sure.
Sure, absolutely. All right, then we're going to go one last thing. Probably the last thing I'm going to leave with you, because Burley's going to get up here next. And we didn't go through much, but like I said, I like this time because it's an opportunity to actually go through the scripture and actually look at some of the things that aren't laid out. You know? That's what I like. It's because we get to do a little bit of the commentary, and we actually get to do a little bit of the searching out, and we get to do a little bit of the cultural research. Yes, sir.
Some of the things that is good on this is to help try to create more color within the story. But let's don't get too far off and miss the story and lose some of the purpose. It's, you know, quite often we say, hey, is this really a salvation issue type of situation? So I think it's good to expand that, but let's don't get on a trail that changes the story.
So have we changed it yet?
I don't feel like.
Okay. Keep watching for that, because I don't want to do that.
Because when he married the darker woman from Ethiopia, Aaron got mad at him and God gave him the curse, so he was definitely a darker skin there. And so he knew he was different.
Sure, he knew he was different, Doc. Last thing. We'll cut it off. Why does Moses' father-in-law have two names?
Character.
Because he's a high priest of Midian.
Jethro's a title, I thought. He said last
That's been stated, yeah.
So does Israel and Jacob have two names?
What does Reuel mean? Friend of God. Capital G or little g? All the research I did was capital G. He had enough respect for him to let him have his own beliefs. Yet, Jethro meant his excellency, which he was the priest. It says the priest of the Midian nation.
So he was there, high
Who
priest,
were the Midianites?
so to speak.
For Medom, right? Or who are the Midianites?
I asked you the question.
Well, I'm asking you back. That's my prerogative.
Don't they come from,
Then they come from Ham?
no,
Yep.
No, they're from Ishmael.
it's not from Lot, is
It's
it?
from Midian.
They're Lot.
Oh, the two daughters?
Is it not Lot?
So that was Moab and Ammon.
Yeah,
Ammon.
Lot, Ammon, Ammon, no Lot.
Midian,
What?
Moab and Ammon is from Lot's daughters.
So it's not from Lot's daughters?
No.
So Midian is who? Is it the Midian?
It's gotta be from,
We gotta go back to Genesis.
He was one of the
Get back to
principals.
Esau.
Uh-huh. Because that's where Jethro came from.
she bore to him, okay, now Abraham took another wife whose name was Keturah. She bore to him Zimram, Jokshan, Medan, and Midian.
Yeah.
So he's a descendant of Abraham from the second line.
That's right.
Keturah.
Who else is a descendant of Abraham?
Who else?
Ishmael.
In what we're bringing up.
Oh.
Ishmael, and then
Isaac.
Isaac had,
Jacob.
and
Esau.
Esau. Where did Reuel come from?
Esau.
Esau.
Yeah, right.
You think he knew, or do you think that the Edomites knew who God was? Absolutely, they knew who God was.
Sure they did.
They were sons of Abraham. They may not have seen him the same way we see him, because did Ishmael look at God the same way Isaac did?
No.
But did he know who he was? Absolutely. He was given a covenant by the man.
Right.
He was given a covenant by the Lord, which was
12 tribes.
absolutely 12 tribes. You're going to be innumerable,
Well,
and you're also going to
you
have
will be
strife.
made a great nation.
And you're going to have strife. So I'm just asking.
See, and
Why does he
Midian,
have two names?
Midian means contention,
Okay.
bringing contention.
Why does Reuel have two names? Reuel.
Maybe he had two roles.
Yeah, the family role,
I
not
like
just
you.
one role.
I really like you. Because it is two roles. That's the way I saw it. I see it as two roles. 'Cause he's a
Well,
friend of
because he
God.
comes back, you see him in the role of Jethro is when he establishes the Sanhedrin.
Yeah.
Eventually.
Which Did that come from God?
I don't think so.
I'm not, no, hold on, we're not answering that question. I'm making a statement
Right.
of something to look at
Mhm.
is, where was God's take on that? Or do we know because it wasn't asked?
It is ultimately, I mean, obviously, it's ultimately in God's plan. And it's about establishing government,
Sure.
which is what they all wanted. It's, yeah, exactly, instead of God, so.
Like I said, I'm gonna tell you, I think it's two roles to be filled. He was a friend of God, and that's why it took in Moses at that time, who was in a country not his own, who gave him a wife, gave him a herd, he blessed Moses.
He could have actually been, in a sense, a rabbi as well, the teacher of Moses, to give him the perception to be able to recognize Yahweh. You know, I mean,
Sure.
who knows? I mean, that's stuff that's inserted in Scripture. You know, it's something
That's the point, like I was bringing up. I like the stuff that's not inserted in Scripture. Not to change the story like Jay's talking about, but it's so that we can dive a little deeper and see where we get.
Well, you did run off the group there that was at the water hole because his father asked why
Right.
he was home so early.
Yeah, he did something.
Because you were in
Yeah.
that group of critters off.
Sure.
And let the girls use the water. And
Sure, so that just made him the most available and,
And you like her,
Yeah.
like him even more.
right? It was like, ooh, this guy can take care of my dog. Here you go.
And where is he? Where, you didn't tell him to come home?
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
He noticed the kindness and the love he bring to them when they were in the water.
Okay.
I think it was because he was 7 daughters.
Absolutely. We're of the kinship.
Kinsman redeemer.
Sure. But there again, until that point, he didn't know that. He didn't know that until when? When did he know he was a Hebrew?
From God spoke to him through the burning bush.
Actually, it says that the Egyptian man saved us.
Yeah,
So that also points to
this
that.
goes back to Burley's.
What was his role? What was he? He was made into the image of an Egyptian.
Well, you know, it also says in the Brit Hadashah that you will know them from their love for one another. You would also exhibit kindness, hospitality,
And the
and
Egyptians
gentleness.
weren't
Those
like
are the fruits of the Spirit.
Right.
So he didn't come, he could have came as a rogue, as a beast of a man, to want to dominate his daughters, to have sex with his daughters. That's not what he came to do. You know, so he exhibited a different attribute of humanity.
kindness.
You know, so maybe that was a recognizable aspect, you know, attribute that he possessed.
Sure.
That set him apart. You know, just like when we see, you know them by their fruits. You know, you'll know a person if they're walking in the Spirit or not.
Right.
He just killed a guy, he was laying low, he was not being out.
And then I get to ask you, we kept talking about the influence of the mother or the handmaid with Moses. Where did he learn the art of warrior, to be a warrior? Where's the male influence? Where's the male influence? That's, again, not in Scripture. We're so,
We know from history that, like it said, he went and actually warred with the Egyptians.
no, I'm just saying what you were saying, you know, the things that we need to pull out.
Right.
You know, to let the Spirit lead us, you know, to look between the lines.
Right.
You know, look in the spaces. You know.
Right, because there again, how is that going to apply to us?
That's the whole point of this. I was gonna ask you that.
Yeah.
What's the parallels in our lives, you know, in our society? How are we gonna transcend this and go on and to extrapolate out of that what we're, you know, what's it gonna do for us? You know?
Well, he's calling us
How's
to
it gonna
be.
pay our credit card bills? How's it good for us to dominate evil?
When you figure that one out, I want to know.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you can see so many parallels today with the Pharaoh system dominating us, causing us through inflationary pressures, through whatever. You're working more, paying more taxes, You own nothing.
Right.
And if you think you own a house or anything, well, don't pay your house taxes.
Right.
And see how long that lasts. You know, you own nothing. You know, again, you're just in the Pharaoh system.
Mhm.
So how are we gonna, how can we learn from this to, again, transcend that to where we can dominate the evil one? Because that's what we need to be doing.
I think one of the things,
We need to dominate and walk in the power of the Ruach HaKodesh. I mean,
We're beginning to see that we're different colors.
you know, I mean, do you see what I'm trying to say? I mean,
absolutely.
to be that remnant, man, because this, and the times are here, bro. I mean, we're right in the midst of this first six chapters.
Sure, absolutely. Well, that's just it. If we got into the next chapter, I was going to bring up some of that things is like, how many times does God tell us, all right, I'm going to give you this, 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 and this. And by the way, God tells him through a burning bush that doesn't ever burn up, from the voice of God, that he's going to make these things come to pass. And not only is these things are going to come to pass, here's the future, you know? And Moses goes, no, wait, you gotta be wrong. He's telling the bush this. You get that?
Oh, Bush, I think you're wrong. I think I got it.
Right. Because he obviously, I mean, he recognizes that it's the Father. Because he says,
Here
who
I am.
is this? I am who I am. Hayah, hayah. Sure. But that's,
He had to get his attention.
he had to get his attention.
Whatever he did, he had to look.
Right.
He had to teshuvah, he had to turn
Yeah, he had to turn, he had to.
and realize who he was. And he was revealed as he wasn't revealed to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, as the scripture says. You know, he revealed himself as El Shaddai, and he revealed unto Moses as Yahweh. Different, again, a different active role, a different name.
There again, you're telling someone who set a bush on fire and it's not going away, that who's gotten you to the point where you're completely submissive. Oh wait, no, you can't be right. And he not only says it once, he says it how many times?
But there again, amazingly, we can say the same thing about our lives.
That's
We
my
are
point.
burning bushes
That's,
that
well,
we don't recognize.
I think we're less the burning bush than we are the ones that are going, no, God, you're wrong.
That's how we react.
I think so. True parallel.